Hello everyone. Today's topic of discussion is questions based on permutation and combination. In the last video, we discussed the basics of PNC, like what is P, what is C, how to define both the terms, and how to use the formula for both of them. What is the formula, and what are the differences, what are the similarities between permutation and combination. Then apart from that, we also discussed the counting method. Okay, how does counting method helps us? And after that we had a look at a couple of questions. We took a couple of examples in order to understand that whether you use the formula or you use the concept of counting method, it's one and the same thing. It's just that there are two different ways of solving one thing. Okay, so what we'll be doing is we'll be continuing from there, and now we'll be taking up the application part, or so-called the questions on PNC. Okay, so if this is the first video on PNC that you're watching, I would suggest you to pause the video here itself and go over the first video, that is PNC basics, so that you understand the basics of PNC, and which will help you in solving questions that we'll be doing in this video. Alright, so let's begin. So what we'll be doing in every question is that you'll be pausing the video, you'll be trying the question yourself first, then you'll be playing back the video in order to understand how to solve a particular question. Alright, so let's start with question number 1. Pause the video and try the question yourself. Alright, let's see what we can do with this one. From a list of 12 songs, a DJ has to play either 2 or 3 songs. What is the total number of song sequences that he can create? So he has a total of 12 songs. And he needs to have a playlist of 2 songs or 3 songs. So let's suppose if I want to select 2 songs out of 12, so I know that I can do that simply by 12C2. This is how we used to select. Whenever you select thing, it becomes case of combination. So I have a total of 12 songs. I wish to select 2, so it will simply become 12C2. If I have 12 songs and if I want to select 3, so that will simply become 12C3. That will simply become 12C3. Now this is for the selection part. We are not done with the question, because the question says what is the total number of song sequences. Sequences they are talking about. So sequences basically means arrangement. So once you have selected 2 songs, you'll have to arrange them also. So this will be multiplied by 2 factorial. You have the word OR here. I told you that when you talk about OR, it stands for addition. So addition. Then you have 3 songs. You can arrange 3 songs also. So multiplied by 3 factorial. So this will basically become 12 factorial by 10 factorial into 2 factorial into 2 factorial in the numerator. And this is 12 factorial by 9 factorial into 3 factorial into 3 factorial. This cancels out, this cancels out. So we will have 11 into 12. So that will be 132. And this is 10 into 11 into 12. So that is 1320. So we can add. So 2, 5, 4. So this will be 145. So the total number of song sequences that he can create is 1452. So this is using the combination. Now you could have used permutation also directly. Why do 12C2 then into 2 factorial and 12C3 into 3 factorial? You could have directly done 12P2 plus 12P3. That is also correct. It's completely fine. Because the word is sequences, so the order matters. Okay, the order matters. Now you could have done this question using counting method also. Let's see what we can do. So if I talk about sequences of 2 songs and then plus sequences of 3 songs. Now if I have 12 songs, then any of the 12 songs can come at the first position. You can play any of the 12, whichever one you want to play. Now you have already played one song, that means you're left with 11 songs. Then you can play any of the 11 songs at the second position. So you want the song at first and at second, and stands for multiply, so this will automatically become 132, which is again 12p2. Or you could have, for this for 3 songs you can do 12 at first place, 11 at second place, and 10 at the third place. Multiply, so this will become 1320. Again you will get the same answer, that is 145. So whether you use C then multiply by factorial, whether you use P, or whether you use the concept of counting method, all three of them are going to lead you to the same result. The only thing you need to understand in questions pertaining to PNC is that whether you are able to decode the question properly or not. That's the main thing. All right. So let's move on to question number 2. So pause the video and try the question yourself first. All right. Let's see what we can do with this one. From a group of 8 basketball players and 9 hockey players, we need to select 3 hockey players and 5 basketball players. In how many ways can you do that? Selection means combination. We already know that. So out of 8 basketball players, I need 5. So it will simply be 8C5. Out of 9, I need 3 hockey players. I have 9 hockey players. I need to select 3 hockey players. So it will be 9C3. When you use the term AND, it stands for multiplication, so you'll be multiplying this. So this will become 8 factorial by 5 factorial into 3 factorial plus 9 factorial by 6 factorial into 3 factorial. If I solve the first one, that will be 6 into 7 into 8 divided by 1 into 2 into 3. So 2 and 3, 6 goes. This will become 56. 8 sevens are 56. And this will become 7 into 8 into 9 divided by 1 into 2 into 3. 3 goes, this becomes 3, this becomes 4. So this will become 12 into 7, which is equal to 84. So this will become 140. So in how many ways can you select? You can select in 140 ways. Alright, so question number 3, pause the video and try the question yourself first. Alright, let's see what we can do with this one. A new flag is to be designed with 6 vertical strips. So let's first draw 6 vertical strips. One, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. A new flag is to be designed with 6 vertical strips using some or all of the colors yellow, green, blue and red. I have 4 colors. Then the number of ways this can be done so that no 2 adjacent stripes have the same color outlets. Basically, I just need to ensure one thing, that is no 2 adjacent stripes should have the same color. That is, for example, if this one is red, then this cannot be red. Or for example, let's suppose if this one is blue, then this cannot be blue and this cannot be blue. This is basically what I need to take care of. Alright, let's see what we can do. So let's start with stripe number 1. So for the first one, I don't have to be concerned because it's the first stripe, so I can simply do it in 4 ways. Or you can call it like 4C1. You can choose any of the 4 colors, it's completely up to you. Okay. Now, when you come to the second stripe, the one color that you have used, let's suppose if you have used red, then in the second stripe you can't use red, right? You can't use red. So that means we'll be having 3 options or 3C1 options. Okay, so let's suppose I have used red again, red in the first one, and in the second one I have used blue. Now when you'll come to the third stripe, you can use red again. Understand this, you can use red again. The two colors, basically a color you cannot use for two consecutive stripes or two adjacent stripes, but for alternate you can use that, because that's not mentioned in the question. So the point is, you started with red, let's suppose, then you used blue. Now again in the third one you can use red, so again you will be having three options. Similarly, now for example, if you have used red again, now for the fourth one you can't use red, but you can use blue. So likewise, you'll realize that apart from the first one, for all the remaining 5 stripes, you can use any of the 3 colors. Okay. So your answer will simply become 3 to the power 5 into 4. Why 3 to the power 5 into 4? Because in order to color the entire flag, you need the color on the first stripe and second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth. So that is simply 4 into 3 to the power 5, because you will be multiplying 3 5 times, and that will be your answer. Alright, pause the video and try this question number 4. This one is a good question. Try this question. Alright, let's see what we can do with this one. So in a chess competition involving some boys and girls of a school, every student had to play exactly one game with every other student. Alright, so let's do one thing. In the start itself, let's consider the number of boys to be B and number of girls to be G. Okay, number of boys to be B and number of girls to be G. It was found that in 45 games, both the players were girls. Okay. Now, if we have a chess competition, that means there are only 2 participants will be involved. So if there are only 2 participants involved, now for a game, if I want 2 participants, so I'll be simply choosing 2 participants, right? The reason is whether A play against B or whether B play against A, it's one and the same thing. That will be counted as only one match. So there is no arrangement that is involved, it's simply a selection. Okay. If I have G girls and if I need to select 2 in order to have a match, so my total number of cases will be GC2. It will be simply GC2, which will be equal to 45. Now GC2 I can write it as G factorial divided by G minus 2 factorial into 2 factorial, which is equal to 45. Which we can also write as, now G factorial is nothing but G into G minus 1 into G minus 2 and so on and so forth. Because what is factorial? Factorial is nothing but product of the numbers from 1 to the number itself. So if you're starting with G, you will basically go in the decreasing order up till 1, divided by G minus 2 factorial into 2 factorial, which is equal to 45. Now if you'll observe carefully, you would realize that this from here to here, that is from G minus 2 to 1, this is nothing but G minus 2 factorial. This is nothing but G minus 2 factorial, because you're going from G minus 2 up to 1, or in other words, you're coming from 1 to G minus 2. Okay. So you can cancel this and you can cancel this. So this will basically become G into G minus 1. And I can take this 2 factorial on the other side, or basically I can multiply both sides, LHS and RHS, by 2 factorial. 2 factorial is indeed 2, so this is 45 into 2, which is equal to 9. So I got my first equation, that is G into G minus 1, that is equal to 90. Alright, next one. Moving on, it says that, and in 190 game both were boys. So that means I'll have to say that BC2 will be equal to 190. Okay. Now let me remove This is not required. We have solved this. This calculation is also not required. So G into G minus 1 is 90. That's my conclusion. And I just need to solve this. BC2 is 190. So this will basically become b factorial divided by b minus 2 factorial into 2 factorial is 190. So again you will have b into b minus 1 is basically equal to 380. This is one equation, this is second one. Now when you talk about b and g, these two have to be integer values because b and g basically represent boys and girls. So one way of solving this is you can form quadratic, then you can do the middle term splitting, and then you can figure out the answer. You all know how to do middle term splitting. If you do not know, then you can watch the videos, that is roots of quadratic equation. Another is, if we just think logically for a bit, I know that g into g minus 1 is equal to 90. That is product of two consecutive integers is 90. G and g minus 1 are product of two consecutive integers. Product of two consecutive integers is 90. That means one of them has to be 10, other has to be 9. That's the only way applicable. Another way is minus 9 and minus 10, but g can't be negative because it represents number of girls. So that means g has to be 10 so that g minus 1 becomes 9. G has to be 10 so that g minus 1 becomes 9. Same thought process if we apply for b into b minus 1, you will observe that b will be 20 and b minus 1 will be 19. 20 into 19 is 380, which means the number of boys is 20. Now we are still not done. We have only solved the question till this part. Okay. Moving on, the number of games in which one player was boy and the other was girl was. Now you need a boy and you need a girl. So if you need a boy, that will be 20C1. And if you need a girl, that will be 10C1. 20C1 will come out to be 20 and 10C1 will come out to be 10. So 20 into 10 will be equal to 200. 20 into 10 will simply be equal to 200. So there can be, or there will be 200 possible games which involve only a boy and a girl. Okay, so simply going step by step, that's it. It was a good question. Basically it was the other way around. Usually we find out the answer. In this case the result of NCR was given to us, so we have to come the other way around. Alright, pause the video and try this question number 5. Alright, let's see what we can do with this one. So in an event, there are a total of 25 men and 30 women, including 10 couples. In how many ways can any two people shake their hands if a husband and a wife didn't shake their hands with each other and no two men shook hands with each other? Alright, so when a husband and a wife cannot and no two men can shake their hands. Alright, so seems pretty confusing. So what we are going to do is we're going to simplify this. We're going to write it in a way so that it's convenient for us to understand. Okay, so if I have 10 couples, I'm going to have 10 men, 10 women. So I'll be left with 15 men and 20 women. Alright, now first we need to figure out who all can't. A husband and a wife cannot. Alright, a husband and a wife cannot. That means these two groups, or let me name the groups. Let's see what all are the possibilities for us. This is group 1, this is group 2, this is group 3, and this is group 4. Okay, so what all are the possibilities? There is a possibility that people within group 1 can shake their hands, within group 2, within group 3, and within group 4, right? Within a group also they can shake hands. Alright, what else can we have? I can have G1, G2. That is, people in group 1 are shaking hands with people in group 2. I can have G1, G3. I can have G1, G4. I can have G2, G3. I can have G2, G4, and I can have G3, G4. These are the only possibilities I can have. Okay. Now let's see what all we can't have. So a husband and a wife are not allowed to shake hands. So that is G1, G2 is out. So this one is out. And no two men shook hands. That means within G1 it's not possible. Within G3 it's not possible. Between G1 and G3 it's not possible. Apart from that, everything else is possible. So if I talk about within G2, now when we are talking about shaking hands, so whether person A shakes hands with B or B shakes hands with A, it's one and the same thing. There is no difference. Okay, it's one and the same thing. So the point is, you will not take permutation here into account. You will simply take selection or combination into account, because when you talk about permutation, so you will be counting A shaking hand with B and B shaking hand with A as two different scenarios. Okay, but that's not the case. Understand? So when you talk about within G2, it will simply be 10C2. Within G4, it will simply be 20C4, 20C2. So 10C2 will give you an answer of 45, and 20C2 will be 20 into 19 by 2, that will be 190. Okay. Next is G1, G4. Now in G1 we have 10 participants, in G4 we have 20 participants. So I can solve it in this way, that every man in G1 is gonna shake hands with every woman in G2. In G4, sorry. Every man in G1 is gonna shake hands with every woman in G2. Sorry, G4, not G2, G4. So I can say that every man of G1 will be shaking hands with every 20 women. So that will simply be 20 into 10, that will be equal to 200. That will be equal to 200 possible cases. That is 10 into 20. Then G2 into G3, that is 10 into 15, that is 150. Because one woman here is gonna shake her hand with 15 men here. So second is also 15, third is also 15, so 15 into 10, that is again 150. Then we have G2, G4. So if we have G2, G4, that is 10 and 20. So 10 and 20 will basically be equal to 200. And then we have 15 and 20. So that will basically be equal to 300. So 200, 200, 400, 700, 700 and 150 is 850, 190 and 45. So 5, 14, 18. So we can have a possible of 1085 handshakes. We can have a possible of 1085 handshakes. That will be our answer. So it all depends, like how do you approach a particular question, nothing else. Okay. All right, time to move on to the next one. So pause the video and draw this question number 6, please. All right, let's see what we can do with this one. There are 6 tasks and 6 persons. Task 1 cannot be assigned either to person 1 or to person 2. So let me first say that I have 6 tasks. 1 task, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Now task 1 cannot be assigned either to person 1 or to person 2. Okay. So task 1 is not person 1 and it's not person 2. Task 2 must be assigned to either person 3 or 4. Okay. So the only possibility is 3 or 4. Nothing else can happen here. Fine. Every person is to be assigned one task. In how many ways can the assignment be done? All right. All right. So we can do one thing, we can make two cases for this. So either it's going to be the first case or it's going to be the second case. So or basically stands for addition. Now why I have taken two cases, because in case of task 2 it says that it must be assigned to either person 3 or person 4. So let's take both the cases separately, it will be easier for us to solve the question. So in this case I'll be having 3 and in this case I'll be having 4 here. That means one possibility here, also one possibility. One cannot come here and two cannot come here. All right. Now if I talk about the first case, now I can only have person 3 for task 2 and 1 and 2 cannot do task number 1 in case number 1. So 3 is gone, 1 and 2 cannot do, that means I have only 3 possibilities, that is 4, 5 and 6. So one of 4, 5 and 6 will be doing task number 1 in case number 1. Now apart from that I don't have any other condition, so I don't really have to worry about it. So two persons are already assigned with their respective task, that is person 3 with task number 2 and either of 4, 5 and 6 to task number 1. Okay, which means I'm left with 4 persons. So any of the 4 persons can do task number 3, any of the 3 will do task number 4, any of the 2 will do task number 5 and the remaining one will do task number 6. Now you want to complete all the tasks, right? And in this they have also said that every person is to be assigned one task. Okay, that's why I am reducing the number of people also. Okay, don't get confused why am I reducing number of people, because it says that every person is to be assigned one task, that's why. Okay, so our total number of cases will be, since I want to complete all these 6 tasks, so it has to be first task and second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth, and stands for multiplication, so it will be 3 into 1 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So 3 into 4 is 12, 12 into 3 is 36, 36 into 2 is 72. And I'll have the same thing for case number 2 also. So in this case 4 is already occupied, 1 and 2 cannot do this work. That means again 3, 5 and 6 will do this one. Then you will be left with 4 possibilities, 3, 2 and 1 possibility. The same reasoning as in the case 1. So you're going to have a total of 72 cases here also. And in total you will be having a total of 144 possible cases. In total you're going to have a 144 possible cases. Now you could have solved this question by making just one possible case, but just so that we are clear and the things are as crystal clear as possible, the clarity should be there, the understanding has to be there, that's why I've made two separate cases. All right, let's move on to the next one. So try this question number 7, pause the video and try this question please. All right, let's see what we can do with this one. So I have a circle and 6 points are equally spaced. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Now how do you verify whether the points are equally spaced or no? You do that with the help of the angle. Okay, so let's name the points first of all: A, B, C, D, E and F. So let's connect A with D first of all, C with F and B with E. If the points are equally spaced, then these angles here would be equal to 60 degrees. This is what is meant by equally spaced points on a circle. This is what is meant by equally spaced point. You need to understand this first of all. Okay, now in order to solve this question, there is no PNC that you can do. I've intentionally taken this question so that you understand we need to use our logic also. And whenever you draw an equilateral triangle, we all know that the midpoint of an equilateral triangle is known as the centroid. The midpoint of an equilateral triangle is known as the centroid. And if you connect the three vertices with the centroid, so let's say that ABC is an equilateral triangle and O is the centroid, which is the midpoint of a triangle. Then the line connecting the vertices and the center point, which is basically the center, let's call it centroid. The line connecting the vertex of a triangle and the centroid. So these lines make an angle of 120 degree if the triangle is an equilateral triangle. If a triangle is an equilateral triangle, remember that. So this question is entirely based on the concept of geometry. It has nothing to do with PNC. Nothing. So if you want to draw equilateral triangles, then one will be ACE, and another will be BFB. You can see that these will make an angle of 120 degrees at the center. These are the only two possible equilateral triangles that you can form. Now, however, the question was how many triangles can you form? However, the question was how many triangles can you form? Now, in order to form a triangle, you need three vertices. So, in order to form a triangle, you can simply select three vertices. So, it will simply be 6C3, which is 4 into 5 into 6 divided by 1 into 2 into 3. So, that will come out to be 20 triangles. If the question was simply how many triangles can you form, it will simply be 6C3. It will simply be 6C3. Now sometimes people do ask why not 6P3. So let me explain you the reasoning. I'm going to remove all this. See, C means combination, that is simply selection. P means permutation, that means arrangement. C means the order doesn't matter. P means the order matters. So when you say 6P3, what's different? Now try and understand what's different. So let's say I have this triangle ABF. Okay, I have this triangle ABF. So when you use combination, you count this triangle as only one triangle. That is, it's simply a triangle ABF. That's it, end of the story. But when you say 6P3, what you are saying is whether I say ABC or I say not ABC, whether I say ABF, BAF, FAB, AFB, you are counting all these triangles different. You are counting all these triangles different. When you are using 6C3, when you are using combination, you are saying, okay, this is one triangle ABF, that's it, end of the story. But when you say 6C3 for this case, you are saying that ABF is a different triangle, BAF is a different triangle, FAB is a different triangle. That's not the case. Understand? These naming of vertices is for our convenience, it's for our understanding. The triangle is same, the triangle doesn't change. That's why 6C3 will be the answer, not 6P3. That is why 6C3 will be the answer, not 6P3. Alright? Okay. Let's move on then. So pause the video and try this question, please. Alright, let's try this one. So Jake, Lena, Fred, John, and Ina need to drive home from a corporate reception in an SUV that can seat 7 people. Alright, so let's first make SUV having 7 seats. So driver, next to driver, and 2, 3. Okay. So if only I and J can drive, then how many seat allocations are possible? Again, it's a question of arrangement. Okay. So I'm going to take two separate cases so that it's easier for us to understand. So case number one is when Ina is driving, and case number two is when Jake is driving. Okay, so apart from Ina and Jake, if I take the case number one, that is when Ina is driving, I'll be left with only 4 people, and I basically have 6 seats available. It's a question of arrangement, right? It's a question of arrangement. So I have 6 seats and I need to arrange 4 people. So if you want to do it with the formula, please go ahead. You can simply do it 6p4. 6 seats are available. You need to ensure that 4 people sit on it. In how many ways can you arrange them? So it's simply 64, which will come out to be 6 factorial by 2 factorial. That is 3 into 4 into 5 into 6. So this is 12, this is 30, this will become 360. And same thing I can say when Jake is driving, again you're gonna have like 360 cases, because again you'll be left with like 4 people and you need to arrange them on 6 remaining seats, that's 6p4. And you're gonna add the 2 cases because it's either Ina driving or Jake driving, so total will be 720. This is one way. You can also use the counting method. So let's suppose if Ina drives, then you have 6 seats available with you, right? Now let's say the Jake is the first one to enter the car, so he has 6 options. So you can sit at any of the 6 seats. When the second person comes in after Jake, the second person is going to have 5 options because Jake will occupy one of the seats. Then Fred is going to have 4 options. Oh, sorry. The third person is going to have the 4 options, and when the last person comes in, he's going to have 3 options. Now you want first and second and third and fourth, and stands for multiplication. So 6 into 5 into 4 into 3, this will again give you a total of 360 cases. That's the case when Ina is driving. The same you can say for Jake also. So again you're gonna have like 720 possible ways. So again the point is whether you do it the formula way or whether you do it the counting method way, it's gonna lead you to the same result. There is no difference. Alright, time for question number 9. So pause the video and try the question yourself first, please. Alright, let's see what we can do with this one. If there are 9 points in a 2D plane, okay, this will of which 5 are collinear. I think I missed out on this one. If there are 9 points in a 2D plane of which 5 are collinear, then how many triangles can be formed using these 9 points? Okay, so 5 are collinear: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and remaining 4 will be something like this. Or let me remove this one and make it somewhere here. Then how many triangles can be formed using these 9 points? Alright, let's see what we can do. Now collinear basically means something that lies on a straight line. Now in order to form a triangle, you can have only 2 collinear points, third one cannot be, otherwise it will become a straight line. So from these 5 points, you cannot choose 3 points, that's not a possibility. But using these 4 points, you can choose any 3 points and you will get a triangle. So using these 4 points, you will have a total of 4C3 cases. You will have a total of 4C3 cases, that means 4 triangles. Again, not 4P3, and I have explained you the reason, I guess, in question number 7. Okay, what else is the possibility? We can do one thing, that is I can select one point from these 5 collinear points and 2 points from these 4 non-collinear points. For example, I can have a triangle something like this. Excuse me for my drawing, please. Something like this. This is going to give you a triangle. So I can choose one point from 5 collinear points, so that's like 5 cases. And 2 points from 4 non-collinear. So it will be 5 into 4C2. Again 4C2, do not make that mistake of 4P2. Okay, that is whether you take PQ or QP with R. Let's suppose this is R, this is P and Q. Whether you take PQ or QP with R, it's one triangle. There are no two triangles. Okay, so 4C2 is 6, so 5 into 6 will again become 30. Okay, what else can we do? I can also do it one way, that I can take, let me change the color so that you can understand this. I can take one point from these 4 non-collinear points and 2 points from these 5 collinear points. So what I can do is, one point is from non and 2 points is from collinear. So it's going to be 5C2 multiplied by 4. 5C2 multiplied by 4. So 5C2 is 10, 10 into 4 is 40. 10 into 4 is 40. So either the first case or the second case or the third case. So you're gonna have 4 plus 30, 34, 34 and 70 is 74. You can form a total of 74 triangles. You can form a total of 74 triangles using these 9 points. So again, the point is, it's not about using the formula, it's about understanding what the question is asking and how do you have to approach. This is something you need to learn in PNC. Okay, this is important. Let's try one more. So try this one more question, please. Pause the video and try it out. Alright, let's see what we can do with this one. In how many different ways can we put 5 different balls inside 4 different boxes such that any box can have any number of balls? Okay, so I have 4 different boxes. Box 1, box 2, box 3, box 4, and I have 5 different balls: ball 1, ball 2, ball 3, ball 4 and ball number 5. In how many different ways can we put 5 different balls inside 4 different boxes such that any box can have any number of balls? Now when you say any box can have any number of balls, that means a box can have 0 balls, 1 ball, 2 balls, 3 balls, 4 balls or 5 balls. All of these is a possibility. All of these is a possibility. Now if I start solving this question from the perspective of a box, then it may happen that there are 2 balls inside the first box, a ball inside the second one, a ball inside the third one, a ball inside the fourth one. I'm just taking one of the cases. Now since the balls are also different, so it would matter that which 2 balls are inside this box, which ball is inside this box, which ball is inside this box, and which ball is inside this box, because the balls are different and boxes are also different. So the arrangement would matter. Which balls are going inside which boxes, that would matter, right? That would definitely matter. So it's not feasible for me to think from boxes perspective, because there are going to be like a lot of cases and I can't keep on adding all the cases. I need to figure out something else. I need to figure out another way. So what can we do? So let's start thinking this question from the box, from the perspective of a ball. Now a box may or may not have a ball. A box may or may not have a ball, but a ball has to go inside the box. A box may or may not have a ball, but a ball has to go inside one of the boxes. What I mean to say is that it doesn't matter whether this box is empty, this box is empty, or this box is empty. So what's going to happen? These all 5 balls are going to go inside this box. The balls will definitely go inside one of the boxes. Box may be empty or it may not be empty, but a ball will go inside the box. It may happen that the first one is empty and remaining 3 have some balls. That's also a possibility. So ball has to go inside a box. A box may or may not be empty. So what can we do? If I start thinking from ball's perspective, I can say ball number 1 has 4 options. Sorry. I can say that ball number 1 has 4 options: box 1, box 2, box 3, box 4. It has all the 4 options because it has to go inside one of the boxes. There is no other possibility. Similarly, for second ball, I'm going to again have 4 options: box 1, box 2, box 3, box 4. Third ball, again 4 options. Fourth ball, again 4 options. Fifth ball, again 4 options. Now I want all 5 balls inside boxes. So first and second and third and fourth and fifth. So multiply them. So you're going to have a total of 4 to the power 5 cases. You're going to have a total of 4 to the power 5 cases. So that will be 16 into 64, and that will be equal to 1024 cases. That will be equal to 1024 cases. So again, the point is, understand, you know how to do 4 into 4 into 4. That's not something new. The point is, how do you have to approach a question? That matters in PNC. You could have also done this like 4C1, 4C1. So using C, using P, and using counting method, that's not a big thing. Where we actually lack, or where students actually lack, is understanding on how to solve a question of PNC. The problem is not C and P. You all know what is C, what is P. That's not something new for me to teach you. But my concern is you need to understand how to approach a particular problem. That's the real thing. So that will be all, guys, for this video. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel for more videos and exam related content. Please do share the video also with your friends. And if you have any concerns, if you have any doubts, if you have any suggestions, please do let me know in the comment box. And if you're looking for personalized classes or individual classes for SAT, GMAT or GRE, you can drop me a mail or you can drop me a WhatsApp text also. Alright then, guys, thank you so much. Keep watching and keep learning.